Okay, 53. For the next few problems, I'm not going to draw out the graphs. I'm just going to focus on how to get the answers algebraically. Did plenty of videos where we're looking at the graphs. So you have sine of negative 4 theta. That means it's a multiple angle problem that you're trying to solve for. The negative 4 theta means that there are going to be 4 times as many answers as you would normally find on the unit circle for the sine value. So let's get started. If I subtract 5 on both sides, subtracting 5 is the same thing as subtracting 10 over 2. So I'm at negative 1/2 equals sine of negative 4 theta. So sine of an angle is equal to negative 1/2, normally at 2 spots on the graph, normally at 11 pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. I know sine of pi over 6 is 1/2. I need to know that. I need to know sine pi over 6, sine pi over 3, sine pi over 4. So sine pi over 6 is 1/2. So if it's a negative 1/2, the sine values are negative on the bottom part of the graph because the y values are negative on the bottom part of the graph. So those are my 2 answers. But when I'm solving a problem like this, I don't just want the 2 answers, because if I use those 2 answers and then divide by negative 4, I'm only going to get 2 answers. There's 2 answers from 0 to 2 pi. But this is 4 times theta. So there's going to be 4 times as many answers. So there's going to be a total of 8 answers. So to get that, I need to use the general solution. So 7 pi over 6, if I could do a coterminal angle, I just add 2 pi to that. So plus 2 pi n is all of the coterminal angles. Same thing for 11 pi over 6. 11 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n means I can go around the circle more than that. So if 11 pi over 6 is here, then going around it again is plus 2 pi, etc. So technically that happens by taking the inverse sine of negative 1/2 and the inverse sine of the sine of negative 4 theta. Inverse sine negative 1/2, I'm going to switch these sides. So I have negative 4 theta equals these 2 general solutions, 7 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n and 11 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. To get all my solutions then, I need to solve this all the way, so I need to divide everything by negative 4. So theta is going to equal 7 pi, negative 7 pi over 24, plus or minus 2 pi n over 4, but we'll put that in terms of 24. So 4 times 6 is 24. So 2 pi over 4 is pi over 2. Same thing as 12 pi over 24. So negative 7 pi over 4, negative 7 pi over 24 minus 12 pi n over 24. And 11 pi, negative 11 pi over 24 minus 12 pi n over 24. So I just put the second part of those expressions, the 12 pi n over 24, into the same common denominator as the first part of the expressions, so it's easier to work with. Because the second part is subtracting, it's making my answer more and more negative, so I'm going to let n equal, since my first one's negative, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, to negative 8, because I know I'm going to have 8 answers already. I'm going to have 8 answers. There are 2 answers where sine is equal to a negative 1/2 from 0 to 2 pi, and the graph says 4 theta, so it's a horizontal shrink, which means from 0 to 2 pi you're going to have 4 times as many answers. So now I just plug in n and I work from it. So if n equals negative 1, then theta equals negative 7 pi over 4 plus 12 pi over 4, or sorry, 24, which is 5 pi over 24. For n equals negative 2, theta equals Oh, hold on. I'm actually not going to need all these -8. I'm just going to need up to -4 because there's two different equations, so I need 4 from each equation. For n equals -2, theta equals -7 pi over 4 minus 24 pi, so positive, so plus 24 pi over 24. -7 plus 24 is 17. So both of those went with this equation in blue. We do those same things with the second equation, second answer in red or green. I have -11 pi over 24 plus 12 pi over 24 is pi over 24. And for n equals -2, I have -11 pi over 24 plus 24 pi over 24. So that's 13. So the blues are going to be going up by 12 pi over 24 each time. The greens are going to be going up by 12 pi over 24 each time. So the blues are going to be 5 pi over 24 plus 12 pi over 24. So 17 pi over 24 plus 12 pi over 24. 29 pi over 24. So that's a little bit over pi. And then plus 12 one more time. 33 pi over 24. If I go one more, 33. Be at 45 pi over 24. That would still work, so I made a mistake somewhere, I think. In green, I'm at pi over 24 and 13 pi over 24 plus 12 is 25 pi over 24 plus 12 is 37 pi over 24 plus 12 is 49, so that one's too big. And I found my mistake. My mistake there was I went up by 4, not by 12. So 29 plus 10 is 39. 39 plus 2 is 41. So there are my 8 answers, all gotten from those general solutions in pink. And I'll get 8 answers there.